Ah, woo. Anyway, Jared Poland for FronosPhoto.com. So it's been a while since I've done a What's in My Bag. For those of you who are new to my site, I used to talk about what's in my bag. I used to give some insight, what I carried around, why I carried around, and I haven't done it in a while. One, because I did just about everything that was in my bag. But two, I just haven't done it in a while, and people have been asking recently, they want to know what's in my bag. So now that I have a lot of different equipment, I'm going to start it back up again. So, what did I pull out of my bag today? I pulled out the Nikon GP1. It's a GPS unit that goes on the top of your camera or the side. It doesn't have to go on your hot shoe, and records your GPS location wherever you are that you have a signal. So, where did I use it? I've used this in Israel. I've taken it around the world. And what was interesting in Israel is that when I brought up Google Maps to see what, to zoom in on a location I was at, like I could do in the US, I could zoom straight down in Google Maps all the way to the ground level. I realized in Israel you can't. You can only get to like a couple zooms in, so you have a whole overview of the location. And I finally figured out why they do that. One, GPSs don't work very well in Israel. Well, people can't drive. They suck at driving in Israel. They'll cut off an 18-wheeler just to cut them off because they don't know anything. They can't drive. But that's a whole nother thing. So the GPSs are terrible there, and they limit the view of a map that you can do. Now, why would they do that in Israel? Well, terrorists. They don't want people plotting bombings like they did in India a couple years ago, where they used GPSs to search everything out. But this isn't about terrorism, but for me to talk about. But that's what they do. But what's great is it tags your files directly from the camera, so there's no pairing it later, where the other devices that other companies make for GPSs have to sit in the hot shoe, so you can't use a flash. They record the data into the device that isn't plugged into your camera. What's that mean? That means you have to pair it later in the computer. That's another step you have to take, and that's a pain in the ass. I don't want to take extra steps. I want to do it as simple as possible. This is about a $200 unit from Nikon. You need a 10-pin to use it. So I believe a D90 and up would have that. I'm pretty sure. But what I'm thinking is in the future, you're going to start to see the lower end Nikons have built-in GPSs. Now, what are the downfalls to this device? One, it always has to leave your meter on, because if your meter goes off, the unit goes off, and if you're not in great reception, it's going to take time to pick up the satellite again. But if you always have the satellite on, that means your meter stays on, which you're draining battery. So your meter's going to be on as long as this is plugged in. Not a big deal if you've got extra batteries or you don't really need to conserve the power. But there's ways around it. You can shoot one picture. Say you're at a concert in New York, and it's hard to get reception in New York because of all the buildings, but if you do finally get one, take a picture outside of the building with the marquee that says the band's name or wherever you are, and then take it off, and when you go shoot inside, you usually don't have the reception because you're underground sometimes, and then pair the photos later. Sync all the photos with that location. And what's cool in iPhoto, which I don't really use, but I know that they can geotag everything and show you on a map where you've been. Flickr does the same thing. Now, I haven't been using it as often as I should be, but in the future, there's probably going to be some amazing things you can do with this. Who knows? Flickr and Facebook may tie right into an update into a Wi-Fi camera not too long from now, where it will beam your location. I mean, it's just like Gowalla or Foursquare. Those are places that I've been using these two softwares. I don't know which one to stick with to show where I'm at when I go somewhere, which is interesting. So maybe we'll be able to show where we're at in photos not too long, like instantly from the camera. Another good thing about the GP1 is it ties directly into the satellites, the GPS satellites, and what does it do? It sets your clock for you in the camera. So if you're on an event and you have two people with this, everything's going to be synced perfectly for the time. So when you go and put it in the computer, everything's done by time. So I like the GP1. I mean, there's not much I would change about it. The cord gets in the way a little bit, but maybe in the future it's something that you can turn on internally in the camera and turn off when you don't want to use it, because it is going to use extra battery power. So, hey, it has a serial number on it, 205165. I didn't know they put serial numbers on these things. But that's really it. And what's also good about this is when it's in the 10 pin, there's a shoot through, so you can still use a 10 pin release, trigger release, shutter release. So that's really it. You know, I like it. I don't use it as often as I should, but this is what is in my bag today. It's the Nikon GP1 GPS unit.